Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to the Cashmere Couch. I am shooting from yet another corner of my house, as has become tradition on the Cashmere Couch. If you're new here, my name is Tulasi, and the Cashmere Couch is typically where we talk about the magic and the mayhem that is motherhood. But today, we're talking about the mother. And I want to let you guys know that at any point in time that I'm creating a video, right, that I'm speaking about something, it's always because I've been inspired by something else that is related. And then I feel like, this is something that I could share on the couch. So today's episode is also based off of something that has inspired me this week, and that is my body. And in particular, the things that happen that you feel like you have no control over, from emotions to the things that show up on your face, like these little friends I've gotten over the week. I've got one here, here, and one over here. I don't know if you can see it. It's better if you can't, but I'm just going to be real with you, and I'm going to share with you like the stuff that I found out very recently. I've been mentioning this in my previous videos as well. But the stuff that I found out recently that have blown my mind, and I feel like any good girlfriend would share this information. And so that's what I'm trying to do over here on the Cashmere Couch. This episode is not just for moms. If you are not planning on becoming a mom, if you are handling like other things in your life, you're a career woman, as long as you're a menstruating woman, I think this episode is for you. And I'm also linking the episode that I was inspired by in the description box. It is another podcast that I was listening to. It's called Take 20, and it's headed by an Indian female actor that I have been very inspired by because of the journey that she's been through in her personal life. And she has used her powers of influence to talk about health, particularly women's health. And the episode that I am linking down is an episode that where she speaks. She has a conversation with her nutritionist, who happens to also be one of the leading nutritionists in India. Her name is Miss Rashi, I think. And so if you really want a detailed conversation about what I'm about to speak with you, then you could check that out. Otherwise, if you just want some girl time, sit down, let me share some things that I know with you, then just keep watching. For this episode, it's not snacks that you need a pen and a notepad. Okay, let's go. Okay, I think I was gatekeeping in the introduction a lot, but I'm also hoping that you clicked on this video because you saw the title. And what we are about to talk about is something that I have found out very recently. I think it's magical. It's really been explosive in my mind, all the information that I've gathered about this one thing. And so what is this thing? This is cycle syncing. And so the cycle that we are talking about here is your menstrual cycle. You can split it into 4 different phases. It starts with the first day of your period, and that is your menstrual phase. So each phase takes typically about a week. A normal period cycle is about 28 days to 30 days. For some people, it's a lot shorter, 24 to 25 days. I mean, it depends on you. There is no fixed answer to this. Some people have 28 days, some people have 30 days, some people have shorter days. That's just the way it is. And so each phase, so everyone has 4 phases, right? We're going to talk about what happens within each phase, and then you can sort of understand why things change in terms of your mood. You feel like you're a lot more feisty on certain days. You feel like you're a lot more confident on certain days. And that really has got everything to do with your cycles. I've said this in a previous video. I said women's health is governed by hormones. And I'm sticking by that. Everything that I've been learning along the way has just solidified the statement for me. So let's first understand what is happening when you bleed, so that it makes more sense for me to talk about what happens at all other points in time in your cycle, which basically is the entire month. And it happens again and again and again every month, right? So when you are bleeding out, so your period is here, you're bleeding out, you are not just bleeding out blood. It's not just liquid blood. You're actually shedding the lining of your uterus. So the uterus is another name for your womb. This is the organ that held your baby, housed the baby for 9 months, expanded larger than 5 times its size or something like that, and basically moved all the other organs around. And when it's time for the baby to be delivered, it starts to contract, and that pain that you have, the contractions, that's just the womb contracting. And that's exactly the same thing that happens when you're having your period, or it's the day before your period. We call them cramps. The idea is that the womb is contracting, so that it's a muscular action where it does this, and then it's just squeezing out whatever's inside that is not needed. During labor, it's not that the baby's not needed, but the baby's ready to come out. So baby doesn't have to be in the body any longer. Same thing every month when you bleed, your uterus lining has become really thick over the month because of all the other phases. And so that is not necessary anymore because there is no baby inside. And so let's just shed everything out, and we will renew the environment inside, and then the cycle happens again. So when you are bleeding, you are shedding tissue. That womb was trying to make itself really spongy and cushiony, preparing for a potential baby. And then when there was no baby, it just goes like, okay, I've just wasted all this work, and so we're just going to flush everything out. That is what happens when you menstruate. And it's surprising that a lot of people don't know, because you need to understand what happens inside. And even if you are a woman who has chosen not to give birth, you don't want to have kids, that's fine. You still need to understand about your reproductive health, because, like I have already said, your hormones govern everything about your health if you are a biological woman. Okay, so let's get into the 4 different phases. And now, hopefully, when I explain what happens inside of your body during these phases, things make more sense, because you already know what happens during the menstrual phase. So the menstrual phase is what kickstarts everything. The first day of your period starts the first day of your cycle, the entire 1 month cycle. Okay, so your menstruating phase is anything between 5 days to 7 days. It doesn't matter if your total cycle is like 24, 25 days long. I know of some people who bleed like twice a month. They have irregular periods, and as long as you're not in crazy pain, or you don't suspect that you're not fertile, or you have those issues, or PCOS, or you have like endometriosis and things like that, those things you need to see a doctor. Otherwise, it's basically all caused by hormonal imbalances. And if it is imbalances at a lower level where you have symptoms, but like you don't need to go to the doctor because it's not like crazy bothersome at that point, then yes, you can actually fix it naturally. And I am attempting to share those tips with you, but I don't want this video to be too long, so I might have to break it into 2 parts. Anyway, let's go back to the idea of cycle syncing. By the way, do you know what cycle syncing is? I should have explained this first. So cycle syncing is you syncing your entire routine, your schedule, your days, your activities, your meetings, your eating habits, like your social activities, right? Your social activities, your interactions, your work, important career events, dates. You sync everything about your lifestyle to suit your period cycle. That's what cycle syncing is. So you listen to your body, you understand what happens inside of your body, and you make use of that knowledge to help you in your daily life. That's basically what it is. And when I start explaining it to you, you're going to be mind blown. So stay with me. First phase, period. You're having your period, that's your menstrual phase. This lasts anything between 5 to 7 days in a typical cycle. I call this the winter phase. You know why? Because this is where, so imagine what's happening in your body right now is everything is just being flushed out. all of your hormones are at their lowest. Okay? All you want to do on your first 2 days of your period, what do you want to do? You just want to sleep. You don't want to do anything else. You are having pain in your tummy because your womb is contracting. And that contraction is a muscular action to get everything that is not necessary flushed out. And so that's causing pain. By the way, it should be uncomfortable. It shouldn't be painful. And it definitely should not be painful to a point where you are constantly taking painkillers. If that's the case, please go see a doctor. There is a specific test that you need to take. You might have this issue. You might want to check out the podcast that I'm linking in the description box to understand that better. I didn't catch that. And so at this point in time, it is like it's a blizzard out there and you are huddled in front of a fireplace. You don't want to move because it's too cold, and you have like a warm drink in your hand and you're just comforting yourself. Like, this is what is happening when you are having your period. So during your menstrual phase, for the first 5 to 7 days, all you need is to think about this situation that I just gave you, this description, this visual. It's winter. What kind of foods do you eat? You eat things that are very warm. And when I say warm, I don't mean the temperature of the food. I mean the kind of warmth that it gives you inside. So we're talking about ginger. You're talking, but then again, for some people, you have too much of those kind of warming foods. It flares up like this because you already have a very heaty body. So, I mean, I don't know. I will do my research, like proper research on exactly what you need to eat and things like that, depending on your body type. And I'll come back with a different episode. But right now, we're just trying to understand cycle syncing, okay? So, you need to add warmth into your food. And dude, you are bleeding, you're losing blood. So, what drops? Iron. So, put the iron back in. That's very important. Sometimes when you have a very strong bleed, you have a lot of blood coming out. That might cause you to get, very giddy. That's really because of the iron that is leaving your body. So replenish if you have to take iron supplements. And of course, consult with your doctor before you do any of these things. Something else that you want to do, rest. Just listen to your body and rest. And you will notice that after your menstrual phase is over, you suddenly get this like surge of energy. And that happens because now you are moving on to your follicular phase. The follicular phase is when your ovaries basically get ready to send the egg out. So your eggs are developing, and then ovulation, which kind of happens like as a part B to the follicular phase. So wait, let me explain follicular phase first. So the follicular phase is when your ovaries, and if you don't know, please Google a picture of your reproductive system so you know what I'm talking about. Your ovaries, you have two. And every month, either this ovary or that ovary is going to shoot out an egg. Okay. And this egg is going to stay in your womb for a couple of days. Anything between 12 to 24 hours, it can stay alive. And that shooting out of that egg is known as the third phase, which is your ovulation phase. Menstrual phase is anything between 5 to 7 days. So it's day 1 to day 5, right? So 5 days of bleeding. Then you move on to the follicular phase. Follicular phase is when the eggs are getting ready to come out, to shoot out. So the hormone shift starts happening to ensure that your egg is about to come out during the ovulation phase. It is like, well prepped and stuff like that. So the hormonal shift starts happening around here. And the follicular phase is somewhere between day 6 to day 12, I think. Yeah. And then you have your ovulation phase, which actually is supposed to be about 3 days, but we say 5 days because when the egg shoots out and just stays around like at the top of your womb, it's getting ready to meet the sperm. And the egg can be alive for anything between 12 to 24 hours. The reason why we say ovulation lasts for 5 days is because the sperm can be alive for 5 days. Or the best time for you to do your hoo-ha because you want to try and have a baby. And this is for the people who want to have a baby, right? The ovulation phase lasts for 5 days because you could get the sperm in the first 2 days, and then voila, the third or the fourth day, the ovulation happens and the egg actually comes out. by the way, ovulation, the process itself is only like 1 day. And the sperm is already here and they meet. So there is a chance to get fertilized. And that's what you're hoping for. So you get it. So that's why they say ovulation is like 5 days. But it's actually a smaller window than that. But you could have sex on all the days of ovulation if you're looking at getting a baby. Okay. Now, what happens when there is no baby or there is no fertilization? You didn't have sex. Okay. So, what happens is that while the egg is waiting to meet the sperm, your womb down here is starting to get nice and cozy. That starts like somewhere towards the end of your follicular phase during your ovulation phase, and it peaks. That peaks during the last phase, which is your luteal phase. Luteal phase is when your progesterone levels, I'm pretty sure you've heard of this hormone. The progesterone is the mother hormone. We like calm. We love nesting. We love redecorating the house. We love calm. We love comfort food. We love comfort, basically. So that's why during your luteal phase, just before your menstruating phase, you just want to be a couch potato. Now you know, it's the progesterone. Now, so when you're ovulating, the progesterone slowly starts to creep up and it does this cushioning effect for the womb. It starts and then it peaks during the luteal phase. So at that point in time, by the time it's done with the redecorating of the house inside, which is your womb, if the egg does not get fertilized, everybody gets disappointed and they're like, well, we need to flush all this decoration out. And that's why you get your period the next month. Every single phase that I've just explained, the things that happen inside of your body happen because during those phases, different hormones are in surge. And it's those hormonal shifts, the surges, and things like that that give you your confidence on certain days, that make you feel like crap, that make you feel, when you look in the mirror, sometimes you feel like you are the ugliest you've ever been in your life. But people don't see it, but you see it. And that's because of your hormones. And that's also because of different phases in your cycle. And those phases don't always look the same. Sometimes when you're having hormonal imbalances, you start to notice issues. Like I went to find out why I have crazy acne during my luteal phases. And one of the reasons is also because progesterone during your luteal phase, so your luteal phase is when it's just before your period, right? The luteal phase, you have very fast and high rises in progesterone levels, and then suddenly it just drops. And then so when it suddenly drops, everything else that was like there, your progesterone was there, and then say estrogen, right? It was just here. But because of the sudden dip of your progesterone, now estrogen looks like it's a lot. And then that somehow increases oil production and sebum production, and then you have all this. On a hormonal level, what is happening? I have mentioned that when you're bleeding during your menstrual phase, your hormones are all at a low. Okay. And then when you start to go into your follicular phase, your estrogen levels slowly start to rise. After that, you go into your ovulation phase. This is actually when you are at the peak, because estrogen, if you watch that podcast that I've linked, you will know that this nutritionist likes to call estrogen the queen bee. So we're thinking Beyonce energy, right? Estrogen is at its peak. So during ovulation, you're basically having a Beyonce concert. And that's the kind of energy we're talking about. That is when you should be scheduling your power meetings. You should be going for your marathon runs and stuff like that. By the way, when you are menstruating, it's kind of like the opposite. So when you're menstruating, it's winter time. You don't go run marathons during winter. You just want to stay at home, right? So you're not supposed to be doing very heavy workouts. When you're in survival mode, because your cortisol levels go up because you decided to do a very intensive workout on the day of your period, then not a lot of blood is going to come out. You're going to notice a decrease in that bleeding. And that's not a good thing. Okay? Now, go back to follicular phase. After menstruating phase, follicular phase. This is spring. Rising estrogen levels. Estrogen is about creative freedom. It is about you, I've got a new idea. I want to go on a fast. I want to do something new. This is your new season. And then when you want to build up momentum and really do crazy stuff, that is ovulation. That's your summer. You want to go wear a bikini outside? This is the time you have that confidence, because you also have testosterone, much lower levels than men have it, but you also have testosterone in your blood at this point during ovulation. And that's the one that gives you your libido. During ovulation, you actually feel like you want to do more stuff with your husband. And that is because, your body is designed to, you see how everything is linked. You want to have a baby, that is the time for you to have sex. If you don't want to have a baby, use that sexual drive, use that sexual energy and do something else. And that's what the ovulation period is for. That's the peak of your estrogen and testosterone levels. And then when you move on to the luteal phase, estrogen doesn't necessarily dip, but it starts to slowly come down, but it looks like it's a lot less because your progesterone is supposed to shoot up. The problem with women today, the reason why a lot of us have irregular periods, we have problems with our periods, we have a lot of hormonal issues, is really because progesterone, it's not as high as it should be. Again, watch that video. I really think everyone should be watching this video. Listen to this nutritionist talk, because she made so much sense to me. So you have your winter where you're bleeding, you want to stay indoors, you are reaching for comfort foods, you want warmth, you want to just huddle in and stay in, minimize activity. You're losing blood, you're losing iron, so put in iron. Supplements are a huge thing. We really should talk about this as well. And then you move on to the follicular phase, where your bleeding stops, but now your body is preparing for another egg to get sent out. Everything is gearing up. You have a little bit of energy coming up right now. So this is spring. This is when you can do new things. You can start with light exercises and slowly build up your momentum. And then when you move into the ovulation phase, which is about 5 days, that is the peak energy period. That's when you can go do all your flirting and make power career moves if you have to. That's the very important, the Queen Bee, the Beyonce concert moment, right? And so that is your summer. That's when you wear all your fluttery clothes and you just go out and enjoy yourself and party and things like that. And then during your luteal phase, when you are getting ready to see if possibly there is a baby coming through, and then you're just prepping. That's your nesting stage, right? Inside. Progesterone is nesting. And so this is the phase where all the energy levels start to slowly come down. You start to feel hormonal fluctuations again. That's autumn. When it's getting chilly, you want to stay indoors. You want to start, to transition from hot summer to cold winter. And this is the transitional phase. And usually it's during the transitional phase where you feel the most confused and the most tired and the most, suddenly you're exhausted. Suddenly you're really like punchy and things like that. So what exactly is estrogen and progesterone? I spoke about a few hormones in my past video. I think I said something along the lines of like what happens if mommy doesn't sleep. And again, it's all about the hormones that come out when you don't sleep. And now during your period, your cycle, a few hormones are responsible for a lot of the things. Two of the main hormones that we're interested in are estrogen and progesterone. I also want to talk a little bit about testosterone, because I'm very interested to share with you how that, especially during the ovulation phase, kind of brings out the masculine energy, comes out, and it kind of helps with the boss energy. So I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about some other hormones that get affected because of your cycle, and that's why certain things happen. Or when you do the wrong activities in different parts of your cycle, there is hormonal imbalances because of other hormones. And the number one on that list is cortisol. I really need to talk about these things, but I don't want this video to become like 2 to 3 hours long. So I will be making a part 2 next Sunday. Stay tuned. So much love for you guys, and I'll see you next week.